Welcome back. This is the AM show. My name is Anima Animado. We'll be doing this until 9 a.m. Now, this morning, Parliament reconvenes to decide the fate of government's budget for 2022. The minority insists that they have rejected the budget despite claims by the majority that the budget is still viable for our acceptance. We have our eyes and ears on the floor of Parliament. But this morning, we're beginning conversations as we host some members of Parliament and someone who's followed parliamentary proceedings for a while now. Of course, I'd love to hear what you think, so join us on our social media handles. And of course, we might open the phone lines a little later so that you can share your thoughts. But I have Mr. Davis Ansah Opoku, he's the MP for Praia, joining us on Zoom. Also, Professor Kwabena Duffuor, Senior Research Fellow at Odikro. So, okay, let's get into the conversation, and let me start with Mr. Davis Ansah Opoku, who's the MP from Praia, who apparently was the one who suggested, I'm putting it lightly, suggested the walkout. Good morning, Honourable.
Good morning, my dear. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm doing very well.
Okay, are you ready for today?
Well, as an MP, I mean, you should always be ready. That is why the good people voted you to go represent them. So we are ready. I mean, almost ready for Parliament this morning.
Okay, so apparently you're the one who called or started the walkout of the NPP during Friday's proceedings. Do you want to just walk us through your thought process into doing that and what you sought to
I think let's focus on the illegalities that happened on Friday and what you...
Well, presumably it was the illegalities that caused you to want to walk out. So that is what I'm asking you. That what is it that instigated that process in you for you to get your people to walk out?
First of all, the final...
Okay, so we just lost Mr. Davis Ansah Opoku. He's the MP from Praia, and he is going to tell us what it was that made the NPP walk out during Friday's proceedings. And it's important because, you know, our parliamentarians are in Parliament to represent us. And so when something like this happens, which potentially could cause a delay in the budget being approved, then, you know, it's owed to us an explanation of exactly what's going on. So that's what he's going to do. He's joined us again. Yes, Honourable, we're listening.
Hello?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'm saying that Parliament, as we see it, allows ministers of state, allows the vice president, allows the deputy ministers to participate in activities on the floor. What they do not do is that they do not have voting rights, but it does not mean that when it comes to voting, they should be walked out. We felt uncomfortable with the directive of the Speaker to walk out the Finance Minister of the Republic, a man whose motion was being considered, and we thought it was unfortunate. That led to the incident that we saw. But like I keep saying, I mean, we have no regrets, because we believe that anyone who is presiding must be seen to be impartial, must accept both sides. I've seen videos of previous parliaments. This should not be the practice, especially when you have 137 plus an independent member of parliament. So we should be seen to be building consensus, not a display of partisanship in our rulings. And I think that led to the incident. But of course, I mean, the subsequent decisions taken by so-called minority was a clear indication of the position that we took. I mean, on the face of the law, if you look at Article 104, which said that you would need at least half of members of parliament present and voting to take a decision, was blatantly flouted. And we believe that is the most unfortunate thing that can happen to our parliament. A parliament that makes laws should not be seen disrespecting laws. And we are hoping that today all those anomalies will be corrected and we'll have a session that respects the rule of laws, a session that appreciates the constitution of our land.
Yesterday, we had this conversation and we got some feedback from social media. And a lot of Ghanaians are asking the question, and I put it to you this morning, that apart from the fact that the Speaker walked the Honourable Minister of Finance out of Parliament, which in itself had no particular bearing on the motion or let me put it this way, Ghanaians are wondering what the big deal is, because he was not there to vote. He couldn't take part in the voice vote. He couldn't take part in the actual voting. So the substantive reason for the walkout, was it just to show, well, we don't like this, so we're going to walk out? Were you trying to prove a point? What exactly was it? And that's the feedback from social media, that what exactly was the walkout for?
I'm saying that the finance minister was there to present a budget for and on behalf of the president. So, I mean, you could assume that the president was present because he was there doing the business of the president. And for the speaker, number 2 or number 3 man, to work out the number one representative of the president, is quite unfortunate. It's not a precedent that we would want to encourage. It's not something that, as a member of parliament, I would want to encourage. All ministers of state, all deputy ministers of state, the vice president of the republic, can at all times be in the chamber, the voice voting, where the minister of finance and the Minister of Transport and the Minister of State responsible for finance could even have contributed to the voting. They did not. How much more a process where your name will be mentioned and you walk out through the lobby? We felt that their presence there would not affect proceedings. And the decision of the Speaker to walk them out was quite unfortunate. But like I said, events that unfolded after we had left the chamber was a clear indication, it was a clear vindication of the stand that we took. When clearly portions of our constitution, the supreme law of the land, were flouted. I mean, it's quite unfortunate that we have such incidents happening in the chamber. But we are very hopeful that any infraction that has been committed will be corrected, hopefully today, so that the good people of this country would have some assurance that the budget that was brought forth by the government to Parliament has been dealt with according to the law and not according to someone's thinking.
Okay, so there are some reports that yesterday both the NPP and the NDC met to talk about the budget separately or together. We're not sure, but definitely separately. The NDC have asked for 3 amendments to the budget. Obviously, since the budget has been read, you've seen what public opinion has been like on some of the issues. The e-levy perhaps being topmost, the Keta sea defense, and some other issues as well. So 2 questions. Are you planning to buy some time and consult? Are these issues that you want to consider for the sake of the Ghanaian people? Or are we just going to go ahead ahead and I'm hesitant to use the word bulldoze, but then again, you do have majority. So if all members are present, then the budget can go through 175 plus 1. What exactly is, where are your thoughts as the majority right now in Parliament concerning the budget and the effect on Ghanaians?
So I don't subscribe to the strategy of bulldozing. You look at the kind of parliament that we have, we need to be able to build consensus. Our colleagues on the other side have made certain demands. I mean, they talked about the levy, they talked about the JAPA, they talked about the inclusion of the Belikusu sea defense projects and the budget statement. We think that it's also important for the government to be able to give some responses to the concerns raised by the minority in Parliament. I pray that today's sitting adopts a very reconciliatory mood, a position where we all realize that the state is at stake, and we are there to serve the state and not our individual parochial interest or not our partisan positions. We should be looking at one that will ensure that from 31st December 2021, teachers will continue to be paid. Kids that enjoy free SHS will continue enjoying free SHS. The one district, one factory will be fueled. Many of the projects, especially the Youth Start project, and one project that for me, as a member of Parliament for Praia, I look forward for, which is contained in page 307, appendix 10C, number 24, which is the construction of the bridge over the Adoso, is one that I look forward to, that we are able to build some consensus, taking into account the concerns of our colleagues on the other side, and not say that we have accepted what was brought without giving reasons to their concerns, or even factoring what they said into a proposal. So that is what I look forward for, and I believe that every member of Parliament is also looking forward to similarly mutually agreed settlement sort of on the various issues that were raised by our colleagues on the other side.
Let me speak to MP for Ashaiman, Mr. Ernest North. He's also joining us via Zoom. Good morning. Okay, all right. Okay, let me speak to Professor Kwabena Duffuor, Senior Research Fellow at Odikro. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
Okay, so I'm sure you're listening to Honourable Member of Parliament, speaking to us about the NPP's stand on issues and all of that. What does this mean? Gosh, what does it mean for us moving forward in terms of decision making and temper tantrums and all of that? That's been displayed. What does it mean for that? I asked this question yesterday. Do we need to spend some time, re-looking at some of the policies so that the machinations of Parliament are smoother, especially when there's this sort of gridlock?
Well, thank you very much. And I'm saying that if we had taken certain steps earlier, we wouldn't have been here, and we shouldn't have been here at all. Parliament is a negotiatory institution, especially when you have numbers that are so close. You have what is termed the hung parliament. You need to always negotiate your way. And so I expected that before even the budget statement was read, the finance minister, together with the majority, would engage with the minority so that they could find a common ground as to the way forward. I'm happy that the honourable member on the other side, Honourable Davies, is it Ansan Opoku or Opoku Ansan, saying that he hopes that today there will be a lot of reconciliatory statements and reactions. And that is the way to go. If we are not careful and we stick to our guns about legalities here and there, we are likely to derail the process. So I am happy once again that yesterday we were told that the majority and the minority met to have some discussions as to the way forward. Yes, there are legal issues, and we can leave the legal issues to the lawyers and all that. But there are other questions that we can also ask. So, for example, if the majority insists on the walkout and say that, well, the minority didn't have the numbers to reject the budget, the accusations and counter-accusations and then taking to guns and all that will continue to go on. And that will drag the process a bit far. Let me ask the honorable member a very simple question. I'm wondering, yes, Article 104 of the Constitution and then Order 109, which actually copies exactly from Article 104, talks about having at least half of Parliament being in session before a matter can be decided. My question will be, at what time can we say that we don't have the numbers, or we have the numbers? So, for example, are you saying that if you sign in that you are in Parliament, discussions are going on, and at a point in time, a speaker tables a motion, and then you leave? Would that be counted as having left the chamber, and therefore we don't have the numbers or not? At what point does this number game come in?
Yeah.
That is my question. And if we are not careful and we insist on all of these things, perhaps at the end of the day, it is a legal question. And it may have to go to maybe the Supreme Court or whatever. As I said, I'm not a lawyer, but this is my common sense approach to the whole thing. And in order that we don't drag issues very far, considering that the government needs the fiscal policy to be able to run the country. If we get into January and then we don't have a fiscal policy, how are we going to run this country?
Yeah.
We need to at least engage with the minority, have a lot of discussions, and see the way forward. The minority have also tabled a number of things. Yesterday we heard they have tabled 5 issues. Today we are being told that they've reduced it to 3. My question also to the minority will be this: what is their alternative? The government has stated that it has to raise revenue for the running of the country. So proposals have been put before Parliament. If you think that you are rejecting those proposals, what are your alternatives? What are the alternative ways we can use to generate revenue to run the country? For me, if you don't offer alternatives, hard ones, for us to follow, and you are just opposing for its sake, then I will say you are not being fair to Ghanaians and to the government. The opposition must be seen to be responsible, and being responsible means offering alternatives to the government when we are rejecting the proposals put forward. So going forward, I expect to see some negotiatory maneuvers, engagement. As I said earlier, when you are in Parliament, most of the work done in Parliament is done behind the scenes at the committee level. A lot of discussions go on before they come to the plenary. What goes on in the plenary is mostly the showbiz of the part of the parliamentary business.
Yeah.
It's a formality most of the time. It's a formality. So I expect that by this time, that kind of engagement would have started or has started, and that we know what exactly is going to happen today. If we are not aware, both the majority and the minority don't know exactly what is going to happen today, then I'm afraid we may not be able to find an immediate solution to what is at stake. So this is my initial reaction. We need to do a lot of negotiations, engagement with both sides, including the finance minister. Because you see, the reason I'm saying this is that for the simple reason that the finance minister was in Parliament to ask for time to engage with some section of the minority, the leadership or whatever, whether all of them or not, tells you that initially that kind of thing should have been done. But it wasn't done. But when you come to the floor of Parliament to ask for time and all that, then you've given power to the minority, okay, to actually hold on to their guns and say that, yes, we've got him. We need to stick to our guns and make sure that we get what we want, or frustrate him and the government, because you see, this is politics. You can argue your way out. You can say it is not the best, but it is obviously politics.
Yeah.
And politics is about lodging and dislodging one another. So if I have an advantage to make Ghanaians see you as
in a bad light,
an unpopular government, then I'll take advantage. What I understand is that we are talking about moving Ghana forward. We are talking about how to generate revenue for said earlier. Engage with each other and make sure that we find a common ground moving forward, and then hopefully in the course of the week we will see the way through.
Yeah, we will. I mean, definitely by the end of today, we will know or have some sort of indication about what it's going to look like, depending on what happens in Parliament. Thank you for that, Prof. But speaking of what will happen in Parliament, I want to talk to Kwesi Parker-Wilson. He has been following this story right from the beginning, and it's probably a little better place to tell us what to expect today. Parker, good morning. What's behind the scenes information have you been picking up on what we can expect from Parliament today?
Anyway, the minority is clear in their minds that if the NPP comes to the chamber today with grandstanding, of course, they will continue to oppose the budget. It is the expectation that as they walk into the chamber, they will admit that indeed this budget further imposes hardship on the ordinary Ghanaian, essentially accept the views of the minority and say, guys, listen, we admit we want to do the tweaking or the concerns that you talked about. Let's work on it, and then let's approve this budget for the nation. But if they come with the attitude they put up last Friday, insisting that, well, because they've been in the way the majority in the last Parliament, and that they still have that perception in mind, and so they want to come lord over the minority, well, then we shouldn't think they're going to have any budget anytime soon. So that has been the position of the minority. They've served notice and indicated that it is going to be an expensive mistake on the part of the NPP, if that is the approach. And if I must say that this morning, some of the majority members I've spoken to, even on your show, I mean, David Sopoko and some, indicating that he's expecting a more reconciliatory approach. I spoke to Stephen Amwa a while ago. He is also begging the minority to at least ensure that they don't take a partisan position, but rather meet the NPP halfway so that they can approve the budget. And so it appears that this morning, some members of the majority are trying to go the route of making peace, building consensus, further engaging the NDC caucus in Parliament to get this budget approved. In fact, after last night, when I spoke to some of them, others who have the view that, yeah, we are coming, we are filing a motion of rescission, and then we'll do that, we'll challenge and then reverse the Speaker's ruling, and then we'll pass the budget. And so it is going to be an interesting day in Parliament today, where, of course, both the minority and the majority have one aim or one purpose in mind, to oppose and to approve. So it is likely that what we saw last Friday might not happen, looking at the turn of events, because we know that as of yesterday, there was some engagement with the leadership of Parliament. And so there's been some kind of consensus. We are yet to understand what really is going to happen. The information I picked up anymore is that the 1.75 levy, there was this indication from government that there's going to be a reduction. And so today, it is likely you're going to get a reduction. But the minority is still insisting that the reduction will not serve the purpose. It would rather be a scrapping or removal of the Momo tax entirely from the budget. They don't want a reduction, but removal. And so the question about what is the alternative the minority is proposing to the current situation. As I spoke to Ahmed Ibrahim, the deputy minority chief whip, yesterday, and in his words, the only thing that they are proposing as an alternative is cutting down expenditure and government side. They think that if we are able to do this, we can save a lot of money and we can govern this country without further burdening the ordinary taxpayer.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Let me speak. Parker, thank you for that. Let me speak to Assin North, who is MP for Ashaiman. Good morning, sir. Okay, looks like we've lost him. We're going to try and get back to him. Parker, let me just come back to you for a second. So the NDC started with 5 points, 5 areas that they wanted to address. We're being told that that has been cut down to 3. Is this an indication of some sort of compromise? Because you're also talking about the fact that they're saying that actually scrap the Momo tax completely. Is this a showing of a wanting to reach a place where, you know, the budget can actually be passed? Or is this just to kind of hook the NPP into thinking everything is well before, you know, they show their guns or they show their powers today?
Anymore, reading the event and analyzing the situation, it appears that the NDC themselves know the repercussion if you are not able to approve the budget for the year 2022, and it's the reason they are trying to also, you know, build bridges and ensure that they build consensus with the majority, and that is why they decided to cut down some of their demands so that the majority can make them happy. Okay. In all of this, it is the ordinary Ghanaian who suffers.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so the two caucus in Parliament, they know the repercussion, and that is why I'm saying that this morning we are learning that there's been a lot of reconciliatory approach going forward into today's session or proceeding. And so if we get into chamber and there's something different from what you've been told, I'm sure many Ghanaians should be surprised, because a lot of Ghanaians want this budget to be approved. They just wanted to a little bit of reshaping, reforming, retweaking to fit the current situation. And if that is not done, the NDC will oppose it. But if it is done and the demands are met, of course, we are certain that by the end of this week, we will get a budget approved so that the committees can now revert to their various committees and then look at the budget estimate for the various sectors and equally approve same for the year 2022. So I am sure that the chaos and the misunderstanding would not really happen today in Parliament because of the approach the NPP guys have decided to adopt as against what the NDC guys also want to do. But if the grandstanding approach still persists, then obviously we'll not get any budget approved either today or tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Parker, and all the best today. Of course, you'll be our eyes and ears at Parliament. Can't wait to see how that goes. Let me go back to Mr. Davis Ansal-Poku, who's the MP for Praia. So, just a quick question before I let you go, Honourable. So, you know these 3 points that these three amendments that the NDC is asking for, especially with the scrapping of the Momo tax and all of that, juxtaposing that against revenue generation, how willing is the NPP to compromise so that we can actually move forward, especially if you can just focus for me on the Momo tax and e-levy, because really that is what's at the forefront of most Ghanaian minds.
Well, I've said that as an MP, I mean, the amount of Momo I send in a day is quite huge, and this tax would certainly have a bearing on the way I operate, of course. So everybody is concerned, but we also must appreciate that the state needs money to run. We have a budget of about 130 billion, with revenue expectations of about 100 billion. It means that we still would want to find a way of raking in some 30 billion, which I believe we really don't know where we'll be getting it from. But you see, there's been a lot of growing concerns. We have a government that is listening. We have a ministry that has agents on the ground, and certainly would want to give a response to it. I expect a response to the many concerns as articulated by our colleagues on the minority. But just a quick one. Professor Kwabena Duffuor asked a question about Article 104 and when we can trigger that. Just a reference, if you were to take the 1979 Constitution, you would see in Article 86 that it was there. I mean, it was quite clear in there. And it is so, Prof, because Parliament or MPs are representatives of the people, we expect that at the time of voting, majority of Ghanaians participate. In that, I mean, representatives of the people who are there to serve the interests of the people and also the interests of the state participate in what goes on. So yes, you can have a quorum, which Article 102 talks about it, but at all times, when decisions are being taken, when voting is going on, it's only proper that you ensure that half of Ghana is present. And that is why Article 104 talks about it. If you are to take Professor Adamenson's book on Hila Liman, it says that the Hila, a biography, Hila Liman, a biography, scholar, diplomat, statesman, and you were to look at pages 343 to 352, you would appreciate what I'm talking about, where Liman presented the budget. There was an amendment to the budget, and how that amendment collapsed. It's quite an interesting story, and we don't have time. I would have shared it, but this is there to arrest such situations and to ensure that at all times, at least we have majority of members of parliament present. If care is not taken, an emotion of such nature, you have only 20 members of parliament present, and let's say a government decides to lock the entire parliament and only have 20 members of parliament to take a critical decision like passage of a motion on this budget, and then it will not be representational enough. So it is proper that even when members of parliament have signed into office, have signed into parliament, and you know, it is not only the chamber that we do business. We enter into committee meetings and other places. But when we are about to vote, it's important that at least we have half of members present and voting. Okay. For me, that is the spirit behind Article 104.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sure. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
I'm going to speak to Assin North now. He's the MP for Ashin. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning to you and good morning to your listeners.
Okay, it's great to have you. So just from the perspective of the minority, you've asked for 3 amendments to be made. How hopeful are you, 1, that the government is going to listen and compromise, and 2, what's the plan for if they don't?
Well, thank you very much. We are hopeful the government will listen to our plea, or the plea of the many Ghanaians who are suffering now, and then to build consensus so that we can approve the budget and move on. And if they do not, adhere to our plea, the plea of Ghanaians, then it means the budget will still be in abeyance. We will continue rejecting it until the needful is done. Because you cannot embedding the good people of Ghana with so much taxes to extend that even the momo that we send each and every day, assuming without admitting I'm sending 1,000 Ghana cedis to my mother in the village, to send to my brother in the school, if that money is able to move from one stage to another, or maybe 10 people interface before it gets to the final destination, it means you are charging this multiplied by 10. And so we are saying that these are taxes that will give much burden to the citizenry. And so therefore the government should do the needful. Yes, if you are not able to scrap it off, you can reduce it to the minimum level so that people may not feel it. Otherwise, this time it is just double taxation. Already we are paying some distance on the momo that we send. And so if you tax it again, it will double taxation, and which we are very much against, and so many other things that the minority leader outlined. And so we are hoping that the government will do the needful. They will tidy up the budget and bring it up so that we approve it and move on. The fact still remains that this parliament is a hung parliament, 137, 137. And so whatever we will do in parliament should be consensus building to move the agenda of the government forward.
Okay.
And so if 50% of Ghanaians are saying that we don't want this, and 50% is also saying that we need this, what do we have to do? We have to build consensus, meet at a point, and then move ahead. Take the whole country along. That is all.
Okay.
And so we are going there today to make sure that the government or the Minister of Finance does the needful, and then we pass the bill,
the
and
budget.
the principles, and then move on.
Okay. Honorable, so, I mean, on the surface, you know, it would seem as if the minority is acting as an advocate for the average Ghanaian by asking that we're not burdened or overburdened with taxes. But there's also the question of revenue mobilization, because we have bills to pay as a nation. We have a development agenda. We have so many things that we need to do. So this e-levy, for example, was a great space for revenue mobilization. I mean, taxation is always a great way to get money from the people. What is the minority offering as an alternative? Because there's that gap that has to be filled. So what's the alternative?
So we were promised that we were going to move from taxation to production. Mm-hmm. We cannot be taxing the people, the very people who are suffering. We cannot be taking money from them to be paying bills as Ghanaians. We must be innovative and proactive to generate or to make money, not to be taking money from the taxpayers. We have so much unemployment youth in this country. The jobs are not there. Businesses are not booming. A whole lot of issues confronting the nation. And you are still taxing the same very vulnerable people to be paying your bills. Does it sound well? How can you rob, Peter to pay Paul? The very poor person, you are taxing that person to pay your bills. Why can't we make money? Why can't we, be proactive and innovative to generate money from somewhere? Look at the profligate expenditures that are going on in this country. Look at the expenses that the government machinery, the amount of money that is allocated to the government machinery alone. And so when all these things are happening, and the citizens are also, the government is spending, Flaster House is spending this amount of money in traveling expenses, etc. And yet you are taxing them to be paying such an amount of money for them to be traveling. They may not take it lightly. And that is why we are saying that if for nothing at all, the government should find another way. We are not saying that we don't need money to pay our expenses, but we need to create an avenue not to be taxing the people almost all the time to pay for our bills. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that, Mr. Assin North, the MP for Ashin. Thank you for your time this morning. Also, Professor Kwabena Duffuor, Senior Research Fellow at Odikro, and Honorable Mr. Davis as well, Mr. Davis Ansah-Opoku, who's the MP for Praia. So thank you for your time, for spending time with us here on the AM show this morning. And we wish you well in today's proceedings, and we hope that you can come to a consensus for all Ghanaians, because at the end of the day, it really is about us. It's not so much about the process and the procedures and all of that, but really just fighting for the good of the average Ghanaian. And before I let you go, let me start with you, Mr. Davis Ansah-Opoku. Do you have any final words that you'd like to share with our listeners? Okay, so we've lost him. Hopefully he's off to Parliament. So, Prof, if you're there, any final words for us?
Well, I'll say that, the response given by the Honorable MP is not a straightforward answer. There are still legal questions, because we can also ask about intentionality. When the proceedings of Parliament are ongoing, and then you intentionally organize yourself to work out, there can be questions there. And that is why I'm saying we don't have a clear-cut answer to that question. And that is why I say that we need to build consensus. We need to negotiate our way. We need to have some reconciliatory attempt so that we can have our way through. Otherwise, from all the conversations that are going on, listening to the Honorable Ernest is not way.
Yes.
And then the Honorable MP from Praia, so Davis Opoku answer. I clearly can see that they haven't been able to build any consensus. And therefore, I'm not too sure whether today we are likely to find a solution to the issues at hand. For me, it is about negotiation, negotiation, negotiation. That is the way to go. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Professor Safo Kantanka, for your time this morning. Wishing you a fantastic day. All right. So that's it for our budget conversation. But of course, here on Joy News, we will be covering all the proceedings from Parliament. So we are your eyes and your ears, and we'll find out what happens today. I'm going to take a quick break, but